Hey, and how's everybody doing today? This is Sherman Ray, and this is Christ and Culture. I want to welcome everybody to the broadcast here today. First of all, before we get going too much further, I want to remind everybody that we are to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'd love to have you on YouTube, and if you're watching the show via YouTube, love to have you there. And we want to make sure everybody is aware that we're on Godstream.org now too. So we're very excited about that too. Christ and culture. It's all about how Christ is having his influence in the culture, and so we on the broadcast we've also got our just a wonderful. Wonderful guest host, and I want to bring him on is Pastor Tommy Allums. And Pastor Tommy Allums is the lead pastor over at Flaming Word Church. Pastor Tommy, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Great. How's your week been going so far?
It's been going. I'm just thinking we're halfway through, more than halfway through 2024. It's crazy.
It really is. My gosh, time flies, doesn't it?
Yes.
It really does. So I was just letting everybody know about the show, that we're really just trying to let everybody know what's going on with the culture. Really what's how things have been going out. I think you're probably now you're more centrally located than our church is, but you're probably seeing a lot of stuff going on in your area too, correct?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on everywhere right now. I don't think any particular geographical location is exempt from lots of things going on right now.
No, it's just crazy, and the big story this week. This is crazy. And last week we talked a little bit about former President Trump being somebody trying to take a shot at him right on Saturday, which was just crazy. All the churches were praying for him and stuff like that, but just on the heels of that, like literally a week later, President Joe Biden announces via Twitter that he's done. He's done off the thing. I mean, so I want your thoughts on that. This is crazy already.
Yeah, there was a lot of pressure, and when there's a lot of pressure, you people tend to give into that pressure over time. So I kind of expected it.
Mm-hmm.
It came a little sooner than I expected, but yeah, it's still a shock because I've never seen this happen, in my lifetime. So it's definitely like we were just talking. Lots of things going on right now.
This is crazy. I'll tell you, and like you said, this is like pressure, right? Pressure like to the nth degree. And I know it's people were saying, "Oh no, he's so magnanimous." That he was looking out for the country, and the country was, and I'm going, I don't know. From what I heard, this was not this was not one of those things where he said, you know what, I think I'm going to do this for the country. I really heard that several people, and I think he had at least 31 or so people in the House said, hey, it's time for you to go. But then the donors started saying, hey, we're holding your money now. So this was like crazy, and in his place now. So we still haven't heard from the president yet. I mean, we've not heard any update on him on why he did it. He still hasn't addressed it. But we've got, but more importantly now, Kamala Harris is now the de facto candidate for the Democrat Party. So what do you think? What do you think about Kamala Harris at this point?
We're just gonna have to wait and see. She is from my hometown.
Oh,
I was born and raised in San Francisco, not in the outskirts, but actually in the city. I've actually had some very close relatives work for her,
mm-hmm.
and I have been associated with prior administrations in the mayor's office in San Francisco before her arrival. So, um, yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting.
I cannot wait to see what's going on here. I really can't. This is going to be crazy. So Kamala, so was she the attorney general at the time? Was she district attorney? What was she doing when
So I
you lived there?
left because I joined the military at a very young age.
Mm-hmm.
But when I came back, I kind of moved up north a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I've got some relatives that are a little bit younger than me. So it was after I think she's a little bit younger than I am too, but it was after my military days when I came back. She became mayor, and yeah, the city went into a definite change when
Okay.
she took office. Yeah,
Okay.
so it was very interesting to watch things kind of play out the way that they did.
This is going to probably be one of the most consequential elections in a long time. It really is. I've already gotten a lot of feedback on this where people are saying, look, the black community needs to vote for her, and women need to vote for her, and so this is going to be one of those things where um, I believe pastors all around the nation are going to have to be looking at, because now it's not just Joe Biden now. Okay, Joe Biden had his own baggage. He had his own thing that he was talking about. But now Kamala Harris comes. I don't know if people know about her enough to
Mm.
say, you know. So when you were there, when you were, living in that area, San Francisco area, um, were there any rumors about her? Were there anything that you could relate to people that would say, that this is somebody who probably should be voting for?
This nothing to relate because it's all hearsay, but there were definitely lots of rumors, um, and the rumors were firsthand. I mean, like I just mentioned, I had very close family members that actually worked for her, not worked under her, but worked for her. And so, yeah, so they were with her every day almost. And so, yeah, nothing to actually relate because I wasn't the one experiencing it,
Yeah,
but
sure.
yeah.
Okay. Well, I can't wait. So you have to call some of your relatives up and say, hey, look, I need to know. Need to know a little bit more about her because, like I said, she's a known quantity, but an unknown quantity, and so that's something that people are gonna have to look at. So those of you that might just be watching the show for the first time, that you're just watching the broadcast, I'm Pastor Sherman Ray, and this is Christ and Culture. Um, Co-host with us today is Tommy Allums. We're so excited about having Pastor Tommy with us, and we just want to make sure that everybody knows. You guys, if you're ever in Vegas, come and visit some of our places of worship, and we've got some great things that are going. Christ and Culture is all about how Christ is having an effect on the culture, and we want to make sure that you know all about it with some update stories. So one of the first things I want to get into today is this story that's out of Denver, Colorado, and there's a guy by the name of Jeff Hunt, and he was kicked out of a galley in the Capitol building in Denver. One of the things that happened is, I guess he was wearing a pro-life shirt, and they basically said, nope, can't have anything like that in the Capitol building. And so he's going to sue. So I want to make sure. So he's actually going to sue the folks over in Denver for threatening, or he's threatening to sue because they are infringing upon his free speech. So my question to you here is, first, give me your thoughts on this particular story where you can't even wear a pro-life shirt in public.
That's interesting, and it's really interesting to see times repeat itself. And when I heard about that story, I thought about the story in the book of Acts, chapter 4, where John and Peter were going to the gate beautiful, and there was a man laying there, and long story short, uh, they healed him,
Mm-hmm.
and the man got healed, and everybody was in an uproar, happy, and they began to preach Christ, and the Pharisees and the Sadducees were upset that they were preaching Christ, and they told him, "No, you can't do this." And the thing that they said, it was very, very intriguing the way that they put it. It says, whether we obey God or you.
Wow, this is gonna preach here. Oh gosh, yes,
He said, "You judge," but for us,
yes.
we're going to obey God. So going back to the free speech, we
Hmm.
got to remember as believers that our free speech literally comes from God.
Yeah.
And there are times where we can't help but people are going to be offended.
Hmm.
Um, just like sometimes we're offended by some of the things that we see, but we don't have to act in a way um, that people act towards us. But I was just reminded about that. We live in a time where free speech is being diminished, and the way to overcome that, I really think, is just prayer and expect it to happen. It's one thing to expect it to happen, and then when it happens, you don't freak out. But when you don't expect it, people freak out, and sometimes
Mm.
the result is not always positive.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah,
definitely. It's I'm really surprised, and I get this on Facebook on occasion. Well, I shouldn't say on occasion. I get it all the time, actually, where I will mention something about the Lord, and it's like when we were trying to get the whole God stream account going, and Facebook goes, "Well, you know what? No, we don't really want you talking about God." And you're going, "Well, wait a minute. That now I get so you probably have the same thing. Is I get a lot of wannabe porn stars and a lot of wannabe uh, people who are just foul, always trying to contact me,
yeah,
and so Facebook has no problem with that though. They really have no problem with people trying to contact you. And I'm going, well, wait a minute, this makes absolutely no sense. You don't want me to um, tell everybody about Jesus, but you've got pornography all over your set. You've got all of your website. And if I go around telling people about God, you basically penalize me, and then you put me in timeout.
yeah.
There seems to be a duality. There seems to be, unjust system here.
Yeah.
Now, so are we Christians just supposed to take it, or should we be pushing back on the culture?
That's a very interesting question. Because the world is going to do what the world does, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate this name, Christ and culture, right? So what has been happening, at least in my lifetime, what has been happening is, sorry, my light went off here.
Oh,
Uh, can you see me?
oh yeah, yes, I can see you.
So what's been happening in my lifetime, I think, is that the culture has been affecting the church, right? And this country was literally founded
Mm-hmm.
upon Christian principles.
Yep.
So that means that Christian principles were affecting the culture of this country. People would seek out ministers for wisdom, advice, direction, right? But over time, the time that we live in now, the the church is actually being influenced by the culture. And
Yes.
so
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
world is going to do what it does. So when the world does what it does, we shouldn't be offended. Why? Because they're the world. What I think we should do is have our own, like Godstream, right? Platforms like that. We should have our own um, things to where we can do these things freely and not rely on platforms that's going to penalize us from our free speech.
Mm. Yeah. So I guess, but leading that to the next level, how can we be salt and light if we are separated from the world? And that's where we get into a place where it's well, because I mean it's easily. I mean, really, that's the only way we're able to, only way that I'm able to connect with other Christians is on Godstream. And literally, we have thousands of people a week who go onto our website and talk and stuff like that. But they're all saved, right?
Mhm.
These folks are all saved. We're looking for people who are not saved, and I think that's where we get into this. How far do we allow the culture to have an influence on us without us saying, okay, we're just going to be relegated to this corner of the internet or this corner of our city.
You know, I look at it this way: a light on a hill can't be hid, right? And I know the first time I drove to Vegas from California. You come over that hill and you look down and you see the lights. Immediately, you want to drive faster because you want to get there, right? Because the lights attract you. People are attracted to light, and if we have a pure light, and God has called us to be separate, right? He says, "Come out from among them, be ye separate." But I think at the same time, if we allow our light to shine, people will be drawn to us because of that light. Not everybody, but I think the compromising part is where people are looking at us like this and say, "No, I knew a guy like you, and he did this and he did that." But if we have nothing for them to put their finger on, then they're going to be like, "Something about you. I like you, and I don't know why. What is it about you?" And I think that's the light we need to get to. That's the culture we need to create so that they could desire what we have instead of us desiring what the world has.
Amen. Well said. Well said. Hey, so our next story is about, you probably heard about this. Pastor Robert Jeffress has a church in Dallas, Texas, and it's a historic building built, and I believe it was built in 1890, 1870, 1890. It's a historic building. It was destroyed by fire, and he told his congregants on Sunday, and this was all over the internet, where you could see this building burning. They're going, what building is on fire? Come to find out, it's his church. It's a brick building. Everything in the building was lost. I mean, everything was lost. And they had their service. They held their service in K. Bailey Hutchinson Convention Center, and they're going to rebuild their service. Now, the good thing about it is I heard that because they had insurance, that they're going to be able to replace everything. Okay. Well insured place. But man, can you imagine your house of worship being burnt down? You know. So what do you think about something? I mean, gosh, when you first heard about this, I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, you feel sad as a pastor because now you have to facilitate. Okay, where we're gonna go to have service. How are we gonna do it? What all the logistics involved? That's what I would be thinking about. But to know that financially they're gonna be okay and rebuild. But in the meantime, I was just thinking about the logistics of everything. Where are they going to worship? Where are they going to get together? How does this affect the community? Because I don't know.
That's another thing.
If they serve food or if they give out things during the week.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the things that I thought about.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things, and I don't think that anybody knows how much an effect on that society, that particular place, because it was right downtown. There are probably people thinking, "Oh my gosh, I've been depending on this place for decades." So it's not like you're a brand new kid on the block, and you're just trying to make a name for yourself. But they've been around for decades, generationally. Yes. So I'm really going to be interested to find out in the coming weeks, in the coming months, how many people have been affected by this, and I think it is going to probably be bigger than anybody could ever imagine.
Yeah, I would anticipate that also. I mean, like you said, that church has been there since 1890s.
I think it's been the 1890s. So it's all the way through the 1900s, right? The entire year, 100 years there, right? And now we're 2024. It's been around well over 120 years.
Yeah, there's probably generations of people that have gone to that church. My grandfather's grandfather went there,
Oh, yeah.
Or, that affects a lot of people.
It affects a lot of people. And I think that's really what it's all about. Does Christ have an effect on the culture? You better believe it. And we're going to find out, because I would assume there's probably already organizations going, how has this church been affected? Or how far is this community being affected because this church no longer is in this location?
Yeah.
And how long is it going to be? Because it would assume, and it's an iconic building. So it's a huge building, been there a long, long time, and it's iconic. But beyond that, the services that it did. So here's my my take on this. I don't want to belabor this because we've got a couple more stories here. But one of the things that I really notice is that the church and state have been flip-flopped, where things that the church used to handle, now the state handles it. And so, but in their case, they've been doing this for over 100 years. There are things that they've been doing, and they're Baptist church, so they have a whole different philosophy on community type thing. So they were probably the feeding shelter. They were probably doing home visits. Who knows what else they've been doing? But I can imagine it's going to be huge.
Man. Yes, I believe so.
Wow.
Yes.
So if you're just joining us right now, this is Christ and Culture. I want to thank you all for being a part of the broadcast today. On the set today with us on live remote is Pastor Tommy Allums, and he's with Flaming Word Church. And so we're having a great discussion here. And if you ever feel like you want to write to us, just write to us at christandcultureshow@gmail.com. That's Christ and, it's A-N-G or A-N-D, christandcultureshow@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. So there's a guy, his name is John Klug, and we've been trying to get to this story, this very interesting story. So John Klug, he's a high school music teacher, and he won't refer to boys as girls and girls as boys because of his Christian faith. And at first, the Brownsburg High School accommodated him. Then it reversed itself, telling Klug he would have to embrace transgenderism or lose his job. So what did he do? Well, he quit and he filed a lawsuit. So this is, oh my goodness. And so we're seeing, so this guy basically says, look, I am a Christian and I'm not going to do this. And we've seen this happen in other industries also, but in this particular high school, he said, no, I'm not going to do the boy-girl thing. And so has the woke culture taken over where common sense has left? That's my question to you.
It seems so. It definitely seems so.
Oh my gosh.
Some of the things that are being said and done, it makes you go, did that really just happen?
Yes.
Did they really just say that? Is that really their thought? And going back to that influence thing, we have to be careful that we don't respond in the wrong way, because like I just mentioned, the world is going to do what they're going to do. But in this case, I would have done the same thing. I would have stepped down. I would have, because that as a believer, there's certain boundaries that you just don't want to cross, right? And I think he did the right thing, and that sends a message.
Mm-hmm.
That sends a message. That's a proper response, I think, and not bashing, right? Because that would be the wrong response. But I think he did the right thing in saying, okay, I'm out. This crosses my boundaries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think and now he's filed a lawsuit. It's like saying, hey, you're stepping on my rights now, because you're telling me how I'm supposed to. And so I work in a school district myself, and we have that same sort of thing going on where people are saying, hey, you have to refer to certain people as this, that, or the other thing. But has culture gotten to the point now where we are losing the American identity of freedom of speech, freedom of association, freedom of having common sense? I think that's probably, I hate to say it that way, but when somebody believes that they are something they're not, somebody comes out and says, hey, I want you to refer to me as wolf because I feel like I'm a wolf. And if you don't, you're going to be sued for it. I don't know how we're going to, how do you, because it's not getting less and less, I guess what I'm trying to say is things go in fads and phases in America, right? It's like one day people are here, then they're not there. They like the Beanie Babies, and they don't. But this whole woke culture thing now, this is not something that is that sounds like it's going to go away. And what are we supposed to do now? Because we're in a culture that this is not going away. But and it is something we have to address. That's my question.
I think about that all the time, and the one thing that I know is probably the most important of that. Like I said, the world is going to do what the world does. We need to train our kids with the right mindset because they're the target. If we don't prevent them from taking on that mindset, then we've lost. So our hope is to teach the younger ones the right way to think, the right way to respond, and have a Christ mindset. I think that's the only way to really battle it.
Mm.
And
Oh,
like anything that they battled in Scripture,
mm-hmm.
through prayer. It
Yeah.
was all through prayer. And God would lead, God would bless, God would open doors, close doors. Just like the time when Peter got arrested and he was in prison and they were praying for him. They were praying so hard for him. He got released out of prison by an angel, goes to knock on the door where they're praying for him, and they didn't even believe that he was released from
Isn't that?
prison
Yeah,
that quick.
sure, sure.
So prayer, I really think can help us be prepared
Mm-hmm.
for whatever's to come, and then present the right image so that there's no confusion, because that is the spirit of confusion at work right there.
Yeah, and by and large, and I've talked to a lot of kids, and by and large, kids understand right and wrong. I mean, they really do. Sometimes you don't have to teach them right and wrong. They actually know it because it makes sense. You
Yeah.
know, when they look at each other and and their head goes like that, they're
Yeah.
going, "That ain't right. That's just not
Yeah.
right, right?" And you actually have to teach kids, don't bully that person because they believe something that just doesn't make any sense, right? So
Right.
you actually have to teach them. So I think one of the things that you're saying is they're after our kids. They're trying to get
Yes.
our kids to stop going like this and
Hmm.
going, that doesn't make sense, until and so that kids will say, oh yeah, I accept that. But by and
Yeah.
large, kids go, no, that doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense. So praying, I think, is a definitely something we definitely need to do. Um, can we? I think we can hit one more subject. And for those of you just watching the show today, this is Christ in Culture. I'm Pastor Sherman Ray. We've got Pastor Tommy Allums here. That we're talking about some great articles here, that things that are current, that we believe that they hit right at the core of where we're at as a nation, and maybe we shed a little bit of light on those things. So Tommy, I want to thank you for that. Our last story is a story out of Louisiana of all places, right? We're out of Baton Rouge, where Louisiana won't take official steps to implement a law requiring the Ten Commandments to be placed in all the state's public school classrooms until at least November, as a lawsuit makes its way through the courts, according to an agreement approved by the federal judge on Friday. And this was as of last Friday. So Louisiana is going to their governor basically said, hey, look, we are going to bring back the Ten Commandments, and they're going to be posted in all the schools. And the reason why he says that they should, he said, because basically that is the way all of our laws are built, is off the Ten Commandments. And so we're not trying to uh, standardize a particular religion. We're letting you know it's a historical fact that that's the way that our country is built. So my question is, what do you think about um, a state basically saying, hey, we're going to implement the Ten Commandments as something that every kid should understand is a part of our history of our country?
I think that's great. If a state agrees and passes that law, that is a great thing, because we
Mm.
got to remember that mostly all the states had the Ten Commandments somewhere in school. I remember being a young kid and hearing, actually, I remember maybe kindergarten, first grade, standing around the flagpole before we said the Pledge of Allegiance. We prayed, and then all of a sudden that didn't happen anymore. So what we've seen is a culture shift, right? And a lot of people are really uncomfortable with the direction where we're going. And so I think that's a great thing if a state says, hey, let's put these back for the purpose of establishing some kind of boundaries so that people will know right from wrong, what this country was founded upon and established on. And I think it's a great thing. And
Yeah.
you mentioned Louisiana. I want to say, I'm not 100% sure, but I think Louisiana was the last state
Okay.
to have them removed, the Ten Commandments
Having the Ten
removed.
Commandments removed.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it was recently, maybe 10, 15 years ago, I want to say.
Okay. Yeah. It's funny. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago that if you were here in the 1600s, 1700s, that if you were going to school and you were learning your ABCs and reading everything else, you learned it by reading the Bible.
Yep.
That was the way things were started, and now all of a sudden they're going, no, don't want no Bible. No, you can't learn that because. And one legislator said this many years ago. They said if we put the Ten Commandments up, kids will follow it. And we're going, okay, is there something is there something wrong with that? And they're going, yeah, because they'll start believing that God is real and that God is that the architect of it all, and all of our laws are by God.
So the scripture that just brings the scripture to mind. Train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he's old, he won't depart from it.
Mm-hmm.
Not only do believers know that, but people who are anti-believers, anti-Christ, they know that to be true.
Yes.
That's why the kids are targeted.
That's why the kids are targeted. Gosh. Pastor Tommy, thank you once again for being a part of the broadcast today. I want to remind everybody, folks, that Pastor Tommy is at Flaming Word Church, and just give them a little hit there. Where you located? How can they get a hold of you?
All right, 2800 West Sahara, Unit 8A, and just across from Palace Station. You can reach me on my email, Allums Business, my last name, ALLUM as in Mary S, BIZ @gmail.com.
Fantastic. Pastor Tommy, we will see you again next week, okay?
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
All right, we'll talk to you later. Hey, and once again, folks, we're so glad that you're a part of the broadcast, and we encourage you, if you've got anything that you would like to write to us about, just write to us at Christ and Culture Show. So it's Christ and, to spell out the word and, Christ and Culture Show @gmail.com. It's Christ and Culture Show @gmail.com. And folks, we're going to be here every week for you. You can check us out on godstream.org. You can check us out on YouTube. So just Google us, Christ and Culture, and we would love to be a part of your life. Okay, it's been Pastor Sherman Ray for Christ and Culture, folks. We will see you again next week for more of the great things of God. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.